Hey you guys, are you ready for the best show in the Pacific Northwest? Here's my dad to his boyfriend and friend.
All right, look out now. Here we come. It's the Ron and Don Show, episode number 20, only on the Ron and Don Radio Network. Thanks for being patient with us. The show used to drop on Mondays. Now it drops on Wednesdays. It's all brought to you by us, Ron and Don. We are licensed realtors with our friends at Windermere. You can reach out to Ron at Windermere.com. That's Ron Upshaw at Windermere.com. Don O'Neill at Windermere.com. When you think of real estate, make sure that you think of Ron and Don. It was a picture-perfect day yesterday in the great Pacific Northwest. Our Seattle Seahawks are soaring at 5-1 right now. Who would have thought? It'd be the Seattle Seahawks everybody would be talking about, and the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC West versus talking about the LA Rams, who looked horrible.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, they looked absolutely horrible.
Super Bowl hangover for sure.
Russell Wilson now, MVP candidate with this team for 8 years, a Super Bowl winner, and breaking all kinds of records for your Seattle Seahawks and also throughout the NFL. Hasn't thrown a pick.
I know, that's amazing.
This year in 6 games. Are you still Russell Wilson, or as my son likes to say, a Russell Wilson hater, Ron?
I don't know if I was ever a hater. I was suspicious of Russell Wilson. I thought that he seemed disingenuous to me. Seemed like someone took him into a room at a marketing agency and like quarterback camp 101 and said, here are your talking points, stay on message, be a robot, be this like perfect human being robot. And that's what it seemed to be the case. I just read a really interesting piece by a former coworker of ours, Brady Henderson, who now works for ESPN, and you'll see him doing stand-ups for the TV side in his writing. And he did a really deep piece on Russell Wilson's performance coach and like his mental coach, and he has this entire team as a nutritionist, massage therapist, this mental coach. And when I read that, I was like, okay, does this make sense for how he presents? And after reading, I was like, yeah, it kind of does, because as an undersized quarterback, as a guy that was always told you're too short, you're not going to make it in the NFL, he had to change colleges because of a similar dynamic. And then Russell Wilson, all he does is just achieve and win. And so this story that he tells himself and the mantras and like the sort of manufactured thing, I think that really is him. I think he found something that worked for him, and he actively sort of tries to fend off negative thoughts or negative thinking, or he's built this framework, a mental model for himself that achieves. And so because of that, I guess while it's not the type of authenticity that I am attracted to just naturally, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's been doing it for 8 years. Like you said, you don't hear stories of him off the field where he's getting in any kind of trouble or doing any sort of weird things. So I guess it's just him. Like that's the thing that he's into and that it works for him.
Yeah. I thought it's interesting because the Seattle Seahawks, they win the Super Bowl in 2013, and they do it with a really young team and some young players like by the name of Russell Wilson, and you look at Bobby Wagner, number 54. And when they were really struggling on the road yesterday, Bobby Wagner, you saw them on TV call everyone together, and he was talking to the younger guys, and he just said, hey, you know what? We just got punched in the jaw. We got punched in the face, and now we are going to punch back. And you saw the Seattle Seahawks do that yesterday, which is really hard to do in an early game on the road, and they did it against Cleveland. So, and the fun thing for me, and I know this dates the podcast talking about the Seahawks a little bit, and I don't care. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch the Seattle Seahawks play the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco and also in Seattle because we'll get them twice. And Richard Sherman is playing some pretty good football right now for the San Francisco 49ers. And let me ask you this. If you're in that arena, CenturyLink Field, and Richard Sherman walks out in a San Francisco 49er uniform, how are you going to react to that?
I have nothing but love for Richard Sherman. Yeah. Again, if you want to talk about life stories and life arcs, the Richard Sherman story of where he came from and what he accomplished, to me, that covers a multitude of sins. So whatever brashness people say or the rough edges, you put 10,000 kids in Compton, California, and have your dad be drive a garbage truck and say, hey, attain the highest level of professional sports. he's the one, maybe beyond 10,000, it might be one in a million kids to overcome that situation, not get involved in drugs when all of his peers got involved in drugs and gangs, to go to Stanford and to get a scholarship there and do the academic rigors of Stanford and get his degree and become a standout football player and then to make it in the NFL. So his story to me just trumps any of that. So he gets nothing but love from me. And he was part of the identity of that Super Bowl team. And you always talk about it forever, that the tip that he made that led to the interception in the NFC Championship game against the Niners was the reason why they made it to the Super Bowl. So I have nothing but love for Richard
When
Sherman.
you walk in my house, that tip, and it's the only Seahawk picture that I have in my house. But as you walk in, it greets you. That particular photo, and I have nothing but love for him too, and I love his story, and I love that even sometimes when he has to manufacture a chip on his shoulder, that he's able to do that, and he just makes the game really fun. And you talked about Russell Wilson, all the work that he does with Children's Hospital. You look at Richard Sherman, he goes back to Compton, California. He remembers where he comes from. And he has raised a lot of money for a lot of kids in a lot of those schools. And then he hands out his phone number. And he just says, hey, if you ever need a friend, if you ever need to talk to somebody, reach out. And that is unheard of. The other thing I love is his dad has vision in one eye. He's never crashed his garbage truck. And he still drives the garbage truck to this day in Compton, California, because he's like, you know what? That's my son's money. That's not my money. I get my money driving a garbage truck. How about that? Just getting started. It's the Ron and Don Show. Thanks for listening to us on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
You should buy a shirt. It's the Ron and Don Nation t-shirt. $5 goes toward helping kids. It's cops helping kids. Find out more at ronanddon.com. Ron and Don are licensed real estate brokers with Windermere Midtown. Are you ready to buy or sell a home? Yeah, call my dad or his best friend Ron.
All right, it's the Ron and Don Show, only on the Ron and Don Radio Network. The show drops every Wednesday, and get signed up for the newsletter. We really appreciate when you give us a rating, too.
Yeah, it's at ronanddon.com. Just click on that radio icon, and you can sign up there. Also, all our merch is there. We have Ron and Don Nation t-shirts. $5 goes to Charlie's Dinosaur. We also got the Ron and Don Nation dog bandanas, which I guess a human being could wear, the big ones, if you wanted to, but mostly they're for dogs. And all of that is online right now.
Want to share a story about a client and one of my best friends, and I want to share this story with everyone because it's just happened, and I'm pretty pumped out of my mind about it today. And it's connected to the fact people know that we worked on terrestrial radio. Also, I've taught a lot of spin classes and exercise classes over the years. And then now we're doing this podcast. And, of course, the way that we pay our bills is by owning long, short-term rentals, real estate, and also working at Windermere as licensed realtors. And my friends know this now. So some of them have reached out to me. And friend Scotty reached out to me and said, hey, I'm looking for an investment property. And he said, I see that you've been pretty successful with Airbnbs and you've been pretty successful with short and long-term rentals. I would like to buy something on Queen Anne where I have some property, and I'm interested in doing something like you're doing, buying a house, maybe a guest house in the back. And my wife, Mary, and I, and then he has a best friend that he grew up with. I have a Ron. He has a Ron, too. In fact, he grew up with his friend Ron and Carrie. So the four of them, these two couples are going to get together, and they're going to reach out, and they're going to buy an investment property, and he wanted me to kind of lead the way on this thing.
I actually like, and I talk with Scotty a little bit as well. I'm not as good a friend as him as you are, but we text every now and then. I think it's different, and maybe this is different for him as well. You can go look at your 401k, and it almost seems like a video game. Like it's on the computer. You look at the number. Sometimes it goes up. Sometimes it goes down, depending on the economy. It's different when it's a real thing. When you can drive by and go, that's my investment. It's right. I'm getting out of my car and I'm walking over to my investment. I'm buying light bulbs for my investment. I'm actively involved with this investment. It just feels different. And even though it's kind of the same, I mean, it's a different vehicle for your retirement, it just feels that I like that feeling. And I know that Scott was excited about that, but nervous too, because you move assets around to do this. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it just feels different when it's a physical object.
Yeah, and what I tell people, if you're going to buy an investment property right now, and you can do it within the shadow of South Lake Union, within the shadow of the Space Needle, what's happening on the waterfront, I mean, it is the Yukon Gold Rush right now here in Seattle. It just is. And if you can afford to even buy a little condo and Airbnb that thing. You see people doing that. Or if you can go out and you can buy a little house and turn that into a long-term rental, do some of the work, some of the demo work yourself. Anyone can do demo because you can figure out how to do that on YouTube and then bring somebody in to finish it, have some sweat equity, and then turn around. There are so many people that are moving to the area from all different parts of the world right now, and they are looking for long-term and short-term rentals.
And then the thing I like that you did for Scotty, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, you almost need to protect him from himself in a sense of, like, he gets really enthusiastic. He can get out over his skis a little bit. And the thing that I liked for you is you had a strategy and you were like a dog on a bone sticking to that strategy. It's like, this is a strategy. There's a lot of houses in the world. There's a lot of opportunities in the world, but it has to fit. If it doesn't fit this strategy, we're not doing it, Scott.
Yeah, and my friends know. Sometimes they get a call from me at night, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, you know what I'm doing. I'm out house hunting. I'll be out sometimes when I don't have my son, and if it's in the evening, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, I'll be out hunting houses for different clients.
And getting 911 calls. There's a weird guy in the backyard. Send the police.
It was 9:10 the other night, a couple weeks ago. He's at the Rolling Stone concert. You were at the
I was at the Rolling Stones concert.
Everybody was at the Rolling Stone concert. Guess who wasn't at the Rolling Stone concert?
This guy right here.
This guy over here, because I was out looking for houses. And then, boom, I found the house. It had just come online. And I knew that there were going to be people all over this house. And I called him at the Rolling Stone concert and I said, hey, I've stood in about 40 or 50 different houses for you, either in the front yard or inside those homes. It's important that you find somebody, especially if you're looking for an investment property. The pictures online. Talk a little bit, because you're a great photographer. Talk a little bit about some of the pictures that we see on all these websites. When you and I go out and stand in some of these homes, most of the time it can be a huge disappointment. Why is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the marketing has all moved online. It's important to have a great website, but you can do a lot of stuff with Photoshop. You can do a lot of stuff with HDR photography, high resolution photography. You can edit out certain things, do specific angles where when you get there in person, you're like, oh, there's a wrecking yard next door. That was conveniently cropped out of the picture, or something like that. So it's important to, you fall in love with it first online, like an online date. Then you got to go dating. You got to go to the date. You got to show up, buy it a cup of coffee, and see, all right, do I still feel the love when I'm actually here in person?
Yeah, and if you have a good realtor, they will go out and stand in 50 or 60 different homes so you don't have to. And they'll try to dial it down to 5 or 6 that you can stand in, and then you can make a decision. And that's really what house hunting is all about. And that's what I love doing. And
but
that's
the difference with Scotty is, like, he isn't going to live there. This is an investment. And so that's a different feel, a different purpose.
Yeah, and you have to make sure that the numbers work, that the numbers match, that you've connected with a lender, you know how much you're going to put down. And then also you have to know, how am I going to use this asset? Am I going to use it as a short-term Airbnb? Am I going to try to flip this thing? Or am I going to long-term rent this thing out? Am I going to corporate rent? There's a lot of corporations now that are moving a lot of folks to this area, and they are looking for a fully furnished turnkey house that they can rent out for an executive for, let's say, 6 to 12 months. So anyway, I called him and I said, do you trust me? And he goes, I trust you. And I said, I found the house. I found the place for you and Mary, Ron and Carrie. And I said, let's do this. Let's go stand in this thing tomorrow, because I'm standing in the front yard right now. And I said, this is it. Number of weeks later, in fact, it was just last week, I was able, and I don't know about you, I didn't think I would get emotional, but I went and I got the keys from the other realtor. And then I stood there and I handed the keys to Scott and Mary, and they didn't cry, but I did. They were like holding me, and I'm like, I don't know why I got so.
You're a bit of a crier.
I don't know why I got so emotional about it, but I got very, very emotional. And then just to see them, I stop by every once in a while, and they're over there. They're working on it. They're tuning it up, and they're getting ready to do some short-term rentals with it. And I'm like, to be a part of their success story and to have them trust me and to have him take my phone call at a Rolling Stone concert at 9:10 in the evening, because who takes a phone call at a Rolling Stone concert?
In all honesty, you radically changed their retirement years.
Yeah.
Radically.
Yeah, I think so.
Good for you. Like, that is... The economics of it is going to make a huge difference in both of those couples' lives.
Yeah, they got an incredible deal on this house and the strategy in which they're going to use this property.
You are very good at that.
Yeah, it's going to do...
And I'm trying to learn how to do that better.
It's going to do a lot better than their 401k. So anyway, hey, if you need to hire a house hunter or you want to talk about house hunting, I would love to be your house hunter. Reach out, Don O'Neill at Windermere.com, and you can reach out to Ron Upshaw at Windermere.com. We would love to go hunting for you. We'll stand in the middle of home so you don't have to.
And I'll even want to dress up like Rambo.
What's that?
I'll dress up like Rambo. Draw first blood.
It's so great. And you never know how you're going to meet people. I met Scott after he came to a spin class and had a heart attack. It's, and I'm not joking, it's the Ron and Don Show, only on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
You're listening
Ron and Don Show.
to the Ron and Don Show. And yes, my dad's pretty annoying.
All right, Ron and Don Show. Episode number 20. Don't forget to rate us, give us some stars, give us a review. That helps all the algorithms. Also, share it on your socials. I still get people that were like, what? I didn't know you guys were doing the show. And so if you help us out with that, I really appreciate it. I want to get your take on this because we've been following versions of this story for many years. But so a man named, and I'm going to butcher his name, Eliud Kipchoge, just broke the 2-hour world record to run 26.2 miles. But there is some controversy here. And I want to get your take because you've been running a lot recently. Last couple of years, you've ran a lot. You've done a marathon and you've done trail races and all that stuff. And so there's controversy here because this was a corporate sponsored event. Nike did one a couple of years ago where they tried to break 2 hours with the same guy for 26.2 miles. This one was sponsored by the richest man in Britain. They created a course in Vienna that was, I think, a 6 or 7 mile loop. And so this 34-year-old Kenyan ran it in 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds, which they say is like landing on the moon. Like, that means he ran a 4-minute and 30-second mile for 26.2 miles. Before we get into the controversy, what do you think of as a person who's ran a marathon when you hear a 4:30 mile for 26.2 miles?
Well, I've never run a marathon on pavement. I've run a marathon in the woods, and running a marathon in the woods is a much different animal than running on pavement like this, because you can in the woods, you're going up, you're going down,
right,
trees, rocks, logs, and all that. My marathon in the woods, mine took over 5 hours. One of the reasons why it took over 5 hours, because I ran almost 30 miles, because I got celebratory, and I thought I was out front in front of everyone because there's nobody out there. And then when I figured out the reason nobody was out there is because I was completely off course, and I ended up running probably 4 more miles than I was supposed to. But still, if I would have stayed on course, my marathon still would have been 4 hours something out in the woods, granted, but to run under sub 2 hours, I can't even relate to that.
So now here's the controversy. I want your take on it. The running community is saying this is not a world record. This is not even a marathon, because what they did is he had teams of 7 elite runners that would get in front of him in a V formation and set the pace. There was a car that would come up and sort of indicate pace, not drive in front of him, but just sort of indicate what the pace needed to be for a 4-minute, 30-second mile. And then he had, I think, a guy on a cyclist when he needed a carb boost. The guy would ride up next to him, hand him a water bottle full of carbs so he wouldn't have to stop, and he would drink this special carb drink that he likes. And so they're saying, yes, you ran 26.2 miles. Yes, you broke 2 hours, but no, it is not the world record for a marathon because it wasn't a competition. You weren't in a race racing other people, and this was sort of a curated environment. Looking at it as a guy that runs avidly, Is this a world record in the marathon?
I think it could be a world record for an assisted world record, though, because he was certainly assisted on this. We see this on bicycles all the time. You'll hear that somebody broke a world record, but they did it in a velodrome. They did it with other bicyclists around them that were out front. And I'll give you an example. When I have trained out on the road before on a bicycle, when I jump on a bike, if I am hauling, I can get it up myself on the other side between 35 and 40 miles an hour unassisted. If I get in the bumper of a Suburban for some reason, you open up the ambulance doors and that thing is rolling, I can get that bicycle. If you get sucked up into the draft of it, you can get it up close to 60 miles an hour when you get sucked
Seems
up
dangerous.
when you get sucked up in the draft of Suburban. So what that is in human form, I don't know.
Well, that's what the V was. It's a breaking the wind form.
Yeah, so he certainly was drafting. He certainly was assisted. And then part of racing a marathon is the strategy of when do I stay back and draft off these other runners, whether it be in a horse race or a human race, and then when do I break out front, and will I have the energy at the end to have that?
I think
to
it's a
have
world
that
record.
final kick as somebody who's trying to pass me.
I think it's a world record. It is the distance of a marathon,
but it's assisted, right?
It is assisted, but not like mechanically. Like he had the new Nike shoes on, and he had these other elite runners. But like they do that in big races as well. You can hire team. Nike will hire Olympic or collegiate runners to set a pace and then drop off. Like that happens in the New York City Marathon or the Boston Marathon. I don't know. I think if you do the distance required and you broke 2 hours, it's a world record marathon. Like he ran the marathon, the fastest it's ever been run. I guess I don't know. Like these purists coming in and go, oh, you're like that doesn't count. It totally counts. He's not riding a dog out there getting assisted. He ran 4-minute and 30-second miles for 26.2 miles. That is insane. Yeah. So I don't know. I say he's the world record holder.
What is the farthest? And I'm not shaming you. What's the farthest that you've ever run?
I think I ran like 7K once.
7? Nobody runs 7K.
I do. It's a new distance that I'm setting.
You run a 5K, an 8K, a 10K, but you ran a 7K.
I'm the world record holder at 7K. No one else has ran that distance.
That's awesome, man. Ron and Don running a 7K.
7K.
Oh, they have the Ron and Don radio that way. I love that. All right, it's the Ron and Don Show. Before we get out of here, don't forget Ron and Don Licensed Realtors, all brought to you by ronandon.com. Click on the microphone, find out all about the radio show, and in fact, we got T-shirts. And Charlie, my son and I, we watched Charlie yesterday, and my son went and got his Ron and Don Nation dog bandana. He put it on. I have to get you a picture.
Yeah, I want a picture.
We'll put that picture
up. The pictures coming in are fantastic. You can sign up for the newsletter, ronandon.com. Just click on the microphone, as Don said. You can also buy the merch there. The T-shirts and the dog bandanas. Yeah.
And thanks
and rate us. Rate us on the podcast that you use.
Thanks to everybody who bought a Ron and Don Nation T-shirt. Those are still for sale. $5 on those T-shirt sales. That goes towards Charlie Dinosaur. And we were able to give Ed Troyer from the Pierce County Sheriff's Department a check last week. It's Cops Helping Kids.
Yeah, and a lot of kids are going to get new stuff this year, especially as it starts to cool off. The jackets and things like that are going to go a long way right now.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, I don't know what it is, but I've been reading a lot about Brad Pitt because he reminds me a lot of me. And
in what way does Brad Pitt remind you of you?
I think it's incredible that he has 2 huge movies out right now, and he's out promoting those at the same time.
Oh, yeah, one of them was Astra something or whatever.
And that movie is doing really well. And then the Quentin Tarantino movie that he did, both those movies are doing very well at the same time. So this guy's a megastar, right? Just a superstar. And then I've been very intrigued by the fact that a couple of years ago when things broke apart with Angelina Jolie, in fact, she has a big movie that's coming out now. And they have these kids, and he decided that not only was he going to change his diet and stop drinking because he got into his fight with his older son on a private plane, and they say that's what broke that marriage apart. But he also started doing some meditation, and then he started going to something called the Sunday service, Kanye West Sunday service. Brad Pitt started going there. Kanye West has recently said that he is converted to Christianity, and for the rest of his life, he's no longer going to do secular music. He is going to just produce Christian music. And in fact, if you look online at the Sunday service, he has his choir. They show up somewhere in California. I think over the weekend they showed up in Detroit. It is an awesome choir, really good choir. And what they'll do is they'll take a Mariah Carey song, they'll change the words to it a little bit, and then they'll present it. And they present it online at the Sunday service.
Does he preach?
Thousands of people come. Sometimes he'll talk or have somebody else that will come and talk. And then along with that, then he will send whatever song that is to the artist. So he sent it to Mariah Carey, and she said she got very emotional. She began to cry. The music was so beautiful. She loved the way it was presented. Tracy Chapman, on the other hand, he took one of her songs, changed the words, and Tracy Chapman was like, hey, you know what? I own that music. Knock that off. It pissed her off. She didn't want to have anything to do with the Sunday service. So what I thought was interesting, though, is he says he's no longer going to do secular music. But if you look at music in general, and a friend I was talking to about this the other day, she made the great point. She's like, a lot of the great music that we hear today, or even a lot of the great music that we heard in the 60s and 70s when we thought that rock and roll was being created, a lot of that was stolen. Its roots were in gospel music. Its roots were already connected to the church. So in some sense...
even before that, you can go all the way back to slave music and it coming into like minstrel music. Like all of that is all related to black music. Like everything that is popular music. Even you could go, oh, what about country? The banjo's from Africa. Like the first time a banjo was heard, it was a slave that brought the banjo from Africa and was playing that, and the slave owner heard it in the South, and they co-opted the banjo, and that became part of country music. So, like, pretty much all of the popular music forms in America have their roots in black music. Like, that's a fact.
Yeah. Anyway, I would encourage it. Check it out. The Sunday service with Kanye West, it is pretty fantastic. And it's pretty cool because all the Kardashians go. So you can imagine if Kanye West is at church and the Kardashians are there, you're probably going to just show up to kind of see what's going on, aren't you?
It'll be interesting to see how this goes, like you said, the rest of his life, because like it might be if you know, maybe in 10 years, like maybe I need to do the Gold Digger Part 2 reunion tour so I can make a little money. I don't know. Like I think the audience is just a lot smaller if you go to only non-secular music, but we'll see. Yeah. Like I wish him the best. He's out there following his passions. He puts it out there and lets the market decide.
Isn't it? Look at the people that he attracts. Brad Pitt is now becoming one of his best friends, and the president of the United States, Donald Trump, is one of his.
He's got range.
He does have.
He's got a lot of range.
We got some range too. We talked a little bit about house hunting. We'd love to hunt a house for you. You can reach out to Ron Upshaw at Windermere.com, Don O'Neill at Windermere.com, and congratulations, as we talked about, to Scott and Mary. And Ron and Carrie, we found a house for them, a picture-perfect house, and just some of my great clients, my great friends, and I'm excited about them as they go on this real estate adventure. All right. Don't forget, you can always reach out to us at ronanddon.com, too.
You can fill out, if you want to get involved with the newsletter, you can get involved with merchandise, you can get involved with the podcast. Share it for us. We really appreciate it.
All right. Keep your head up, your shoulders back, and maybe we'll see you at the Sunday service with Kim Kardashian, Brad Pitt, Kanye West, and the president. It's the Ron and Don Show, only on the Ron and Don Radio Network. You know you'd go to that.
Ron and Don.
Okay. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get going.